in your classroom when kids have downtime? If they finish an assignment early, if an adult walks into your classroom and needs to chat with you for a minute, what are your students doing? Hi, I'm Amy Murray from Teaching Exceptional Kinders, and if you're tired of hearing, "Teacher, I'm done, what's next?" then you've come to the right spot. I'm here to chat about what to do with those early finishers or students who just have downtime and you have time to fill. So if that is something that you struggle with in your classroom, you are not alone. This whole system came because I was struggling with what to do with these kids. I would tell them, "Oh, draw on the back of your paper." Well, they don't want to, some of them do, but very few actually want to draw. Read a book. In kindergarten, many can't actually read yet, and looking at pictures only gets you so far, right? So we needed a solution of what to do with these kiddos. So today I am here to share what we did in our kindergarten classroom, and it worked so well. It's one of those systems and procedures that I would not give up because it was a total game changer. So I'm happy and excited to share that with all of you. Before we get too far into things, you will find links to most of the things I chat about down below today. And while you're there, please like and subscribe to let YouTube know that this was helpful for you and so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. So we call these bins early finisher tubs in my classroom. And when I say these bins, these are the exact bins I'm talking about. I got them from I can talk today. I got these from the Target dollar spot. They were like $3 a piece years ago when the dollar spot still had good stuff. And then I put these clear pockets on the front, and they were also from the dollar spot. And pro tip, put them in sideways. It's easier to get them in and out. But that was our early finisher tubs, and we used all of those. You can use any kind of container. It doesn't have to be a tub. They can be baggies, whatever system works best for you. But I had enough for each student in my classroom to have their own because it was important to me that students weren't working together because that encouraged talking. And usually when we were using these, it was a time where I was either working with a small group, I needed to talk to an administrator who just walked by and was like, "Hey, do you have a second?" Or, when they just pop in to talk about whatever while you're trying to teach, how that goes. And I needed kids to be working quietly, and so they couldn't be working together because that just encouraged talking. So 1 per student is important. Now, you can have duplicates. You could have like 3 of them could be working on pattern blocks, right? That was always one of ours, was pattern blocks. So you could have, if you have enough to make 3 different tubs of that, that's not a problem. You don't have to have that many different activities, but enough that everybody has one to work on was important. In all of our early finisher tubs, I tried my best to incorporate some kind of fine motor skill building. So I like to use hole punches, things like cotton swabs, dot markers. Play-Doh is a great one. But the other things that I would use are, I must have misplaced it. But anyway, you can see little hole push pins was a really fun one, but there were some years that couldn't handle that. So you kind of have to know your class as well. But incorporating fine motor, academic skills, enough that everybody had one to themselves, and fairly quiet activities was the key. And then we had some years 28 of these bins. Now the year I had 28 students, I didn't have 28 bins. We did duplicates and we did bags, but I didn't have 28. I had about 20 of these. And the kids would take these either to their table, if that was the quiet space, or somewhere quiet in the room, and they could work on them. Now, we outlined the expectations of what early finisher tubs looked like, what it sounded like, what I should see and hear, where they should be. They shouldn't be able to touch anybody else when they were working on these. They're not interrupting anybody else, and we're not fighting over tubs. And it's one tub. We're not going back and forth and switching tubs. And when you're done, you're cleaning up properly. So you really do have to actively model these things, but I didn't switch out the activities much throughout the year. So once we modeled and did it one time, that was it. Like, we would model how to do the pattern blocks one time. Foam pattern blocks, by the way. Foam pattern blocks are quiet. So we would model how to do the pattern blocks. We would model how to do the snap cubes, connecting cubes, Unifix cubes, whatever you're going to call them. And that way they knew. So the beginning of the year, we started with letter and numbers for the cubes and for the pattern blocks. And then we moved into pictures. And so it's the same skill, but different. It still feels different and new to the kids. Same with our hole punching. Our hole punching cards could be, you're punching around a fall picture at the beginning and then a winter picture, just to make it simple. Another one, easy one to change the theme is with stickers. Okay, your sticker fine motor tubs. We had pom-poms and the different activities that we would switch out. There are a ton of options that you can use in your fine motor early finisher tubs. And you might just have, 5 different tubs that you make 2 of each tub, and then you have 10, and you don't ever need your whole class to use them at once. I like to have one for everybody in case, because we use these if, I had an interruption or I had to step outside. I was sometimes pulled away to go help with some behaviors in other classes, and then somebody would step into my class. And if I was in the middle of something that I couldn't keep teaching and somebody else couldn't just pick up and keep going, grab a finisher tub, everybody, I'll be right back. And it gave them something purposeful to do and fun because the kids like them. So those are the logistics. And then you're probably wondering what you're going to put in these tubs. So let's chat about that and where you're going to get the things you need. So I have a couple of sets of fine motor early finisher tubs, activities and printables in my TPT store. Each of them has 20 activities, so you can have up to 20 different things. But the other thing you can do is piece together some things that you already have in your classroom to get you started. And there's a couple of free fine motor things that I'll put down below that you can use to get started too. Maybe you already have connecting cubes somewhere in your room. Okay, just have them. You can make cards that have numbers and they have to stack 10 for the 10 and 3 for the 3. Maybe you already have pom-poms in your room, and then you just need to add a pair of tweezers and they can sort the pom-poms by color. That's an easy one. Maybe you already have dot markers in your room and they can dot their names. They can dot the letters, your sight words. There's all different things. Play-Doh, same thing. You can use that to practice letter formation, number formation, build words, build seasonal pictures, number mats, patterns. There's all different things you can do with things you already have in your classroom. And I will link a YouTube video down below about fine motor must-have, like what I couldn't live without in my classroom, what we use all the time for fine motor skills. And that should give you some ideas of what your fine motor early finisher tubs, whatever terminology you want to use, what you could include there. Let's chat a little bit about the logistics of how early finisher tubs might work in your classroom. So you can use any containers you'd like. They don't even have to be uniform. Kids just need to know where they are and how to get them. So keeping them in a centralized location is important. I had these cubby shelves in my classroom. Some people can't stand them. They were perfect for this because I would keep 9 in one and then the other one had 12. So like 3 and then 3 on the top. And kids could just take them and they moved in and out. Like I said, I had labels on the front. So that worked best for me in my classroom with the furniture we had available, but you definitely don't need to do that. You can use just Ziploc baggies, gallon bags, put your materials all in the bag, and the kids could take those and just keep them in like one of those, a big tub in the classroom. That works. If you have shoe boxes, you could use shoe boxes. You could use like these little Sterilite containers if you have those around. There's all different containers, but the point is have everything in a centralized location and then kids know where to go to get them. And if you set your expectations and use some visuals to remind them and reinforce them, you should have no issues. But what happens if kids are abusing the early finisher activities? Well, then they do have to lose their privileges, right? Like you can't, if you're going to just sit and goof, or you're going to rub Play-Doh into the carpet instead of doing what you're supposed to be doing, that's a problem. So then they lose that privilege and they can draw or read or something different, quiet at their table, instead of doing one of the fun early finisher activities. And the other thing that I get asked a lot about is, what about kids who rush through their work to get to the early finisher tubs? Well, we just sort of talk about that and set a classroom expectation that we're not rushing to get to the early finisher tubs. It's not a race to see who can get their work done first to get their favorite tub. That's just not how this is going to work. And if that became a pervasive problem in the classroom, then we would stop using the tubs for a while, right? Because that's not the point, isn't to rush through your work to be able to get them. The other thing is, I found really helps with this is because some of your kids aren't going to ever finish early, right? There's always going to be a handful who are the last ones done at most tasks. Is that if I would build in some playtime, we didn't call it playtime, we called it tub time, like for 10 minutes at the end of a day. Or at the start of a day, like, oh, you know what? Instead of doing our morning tubs today, we're going to do some early finisher tubs just to switch it up so everybody can pick out a tub as they come in. That kept those kids who might not always get a chance if they finish early, they still got like first pick if they were earlier, or I would make sure they got first pick if we did it at the end of the day. You can find some creative ways, but if you incorporate the tubs more than just as early finisher work, that everybody gets a chance to do them, it makes it less enticing to rush through to get to them. I hope that makes sense. But listen, what works in one class doesn't always work in every other class. So I could sometimes use these effectively in the morning, but not in the afternoon. And sometimes I had major disruptive behaviors and we couldn't use these at all until those behaviors were under control, because I wasn't going to pick up all these parts that were dumped all over my classroom every other day, So a lot of it is nuanced, like everything in teaching is. There's no one size fits all. But these, when the class could handle it, these worked beautifully. So I just wanted to share what we did with early finishers that gave us meaningful ways to still be engaged in learning and building those fine motor skills that are so crucial, without being disruptive to the school day. So if you have any questions about how we did early finisher tubs, what they look like, please drop them down in the comments, or here's how you get in touch with me. While you're down in the comments, you can find links to some of the things I chatted about and a link to the YouTube video to see more in depth about my favorite fine motor tools that every kindergarten should have. I will give a sneak peek inside of my winter fine motor activities in our next video, so be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss that. Until next time, have an exceptional day.